You mentioned John Jennings. I want to chat a little bit about that. The incredibly well-documented tensions
Yes.
between you and the then city manager, John Jennings. Tell me what you learned from it and, lessons learned.
And I appreciate you asking it because I thought about it before I came down here, and you had told me that, hey, I want to talk to you about this a little bit. And I realized I don't think I've really talked about it publicly very much. So I don't want to relive it either because it's a very difficult moment. But look, when I first got there, I tried to work with John quite a bit, talk to him, call him all the time. We'd have lunch, trying to sort of find ways to, and I was suggesting, look, I'd like to meet every day. Let's just sit down and talk. And that was not his style. It's not what he wanted. You worked with him as well too. He was very much into what he was going to do. And it started with India Street, right? I mean, in that first budget, when he had proposed India Street, and my office had not really been brought into any of the conversations about that, and I would have communicated that probably was not going to be something people supported, and I gave a speech calling that out. My only wish about that in terms of from the public perspective is that it didn't become a personality battle, that it became a policy battle, which is what it was. And I got to own some of that. I think some of that's my personality. That's kind of how I come across, can get a little angry, let myself go, and not talk about the policy enough. And then when I tried to shift it back, it was a little bit too late. But in the end, the substance got passed, right? We won the 4-school bond. We protected India Street. We passed corporate welfare reform. We got property tax relief for low-income seniors. We passed a pesticide ban. We can go down the list. And you don't pass substantial policy without ultimately there being a fight. Because if you're passing something where there's no fight, it's probably not that substantial.
It was unfortunate that the conversation wasn't centered around the policy discussion, that it was personality. That I appreciate you taking ownership and saying that you played a role in that as well. And I think in some of the challenges that I've had over the time, I'll own that. And I had some, tensions, so to speak, with the manager, but mine were never personalities. It was always policy based, and it never crossed that line. For me, it was the SRO discussion and the encampment discussion. Our ideas and our political, decisions are really based on our morals, right? And you're not going to compromise these things. And if you see an injustice and you come to kind of like the way that we were kind of brought up in seeing the world, you're going to fight for it.
There were personality pieces with both of us, but in the end, it was a power battle, right? It was a power battle about a new charter and about whether the mayor and whether the people were saying, we want our voice loud and proud in City Hall, fighting for us, and an old system, a city, and we're still struggling with this, right? We're still trying to find our way through. And I think even elected officials on there now are still sort of saying, how does this work, right? The city manager's not elected. We had a city manager in my instance, I can only speak to that one, where, he saw the power in city with him. And I saw the power of the policy in my office. That ultimately was the clash, right? It wasn't personalities. There was some ideological, for sure. City manager did not want the 4-school bond to pass, most of the stuff I just mentioned. But in the end, it was about who had the power to do stuff. And I'm just a believer you've got to keep that power with elected officials, with democracy. That's the only way we're going to make things work better. So.